Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Friday. I hope you guys are doing well. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, so I hope that this video will help you out, especially as you begin your journey on into doing MLA documentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through the PowerPoint presentation that I created for MLA, and you'll see it also on the week 8 module. So if you go to that week, you'll be able to view the presentation on your own. I wanted to just walk you through it though on this video. That way I can give you some context regarding my slides. So I'm going to switch that around so you can see it here in just a moment. And then I'm going to model what it is like to put together a works cited page. All right. And I'm going to model what it's like for you to use the Purdue Online Writing Lab. So I'm hoping that, like I said earlier, this will be helpful. So, of course, at the end of this, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. I would be happy to help in whatever way that I can, all right? Because the truth is, citing sources can be kind of stressful, right? Like myself, when I was in college, I always had a frustrating time because back then, the Purdue Online Writing Lab didn't exist, and I wasn't, of course, allowed to use any citation generator websites, which I don't want you to do either, mind you, but don't panic because since the Purdue Writing Lab is out there, you have all of the information you need in order to create a works cited page. All right. But before we get into talking about that, I'm going to switch the screen around here for just a few minutes and talk about the presentation. So bear with me while I do this. All right. Hopefully you can see it okay. So hopefully this display is all right. Anyway, so MLA documentation. Many of you are probably wondering what on earth it is, and it basically stands for Modern Language Association, and it's basically a particular method for citing sources in the liberal arts and humanities. It helps us develop an understanding of how papers should be structured, ignore my typo, which we've discussed earlier in the semester. So we've already talked about paper structure. You know, everything should be Times New Roman, double spaced. Your name information should be in the upper left-hand corner. Now, the other part of MLA that we're going to talk about will be how sources should be cited. All right. So there's two aspects to MLA: structure of the paper and citing sources. So moving forward to what makes it important, all right? So obviously, when we're citing sources, that helps us give credit to authors or writers or other creators, all right? When we are writing our own work, we want to be credible, and our credibility is demonstrated through properly attributing sources. So you properly give credit when using MLA when you're citing quotes, paraphrases, and summary. Not to mention when you're quoting paraphrases when you're citing paraphrases and summaries, you're still needing to cite because you're giving credit to the person's ideas that you're referencing. All in all, it helps us avoid plagiarism. All right, and of course, plagiarism is not a good thing. So whenever you can, if you're referencing other people's sources, always make sure that you use proper citations. That way it ensures that you will not get in trouble for accidentally plagiarizing anything. Granted, if you do accidentally plagiarize, I will reach out to you and talk to you about it, and we'll figure it out. But if somebody deliberately plagiarizes, then we're going to have a conversation. All right, so to make MLA as easy as possible, I want you to remember that there are two big aspects to citing sources. The first aspect would be using in-text citations. Now, if you remember the rhetorical analysis sample that we looked at I believe it was a week ago or so, you probably saw in-text citations. These take place at the end of sentences when you use quotes, paraphrases, or summary, and they help direct the reader to the works cited page where they can find more information about the source. So an in-text citation at the end of your quotes usually will look like this: last name or page number. All right. So, well, last name and page number, I should say. So, and I'll open up a Word document here and show you in just a second. That way you can see these examples. But it's pretty simple. It's different for other citation styles, but for MLA, all you need is that last name and then the page number. There doesn't need to be any commas in it or anything like that. And notice on this that the period comes at the end of the citation because you're showing your reader that the citation would be attached to the quote that you're referencing beforehand. All right. And of course, I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. All right. So, and then you have the second big aspect to citing sources. It includes creating a works cited page. And these are usually the final pages of an essay using sources. And it basically contains a more in-depth breakdown of the sources within the paper. All right. Sometimes they're called bibliography. Sometimes they're called just citation pages. It really depends on what format you're writing in. And of course, we're writing in MLA. So our works cited pages should be titled works cited. All right. So just keep in mind that those are the two big aspects you want to always remember. All right. Now, to give you some situations where in-text citations might be a little bit different, moving back to in-text citations, of course, if you state the author's name earlier in the sentence, and for me, I'm okay if you do this even earlier, if you state their name earlier in the paragraph, then you just need to provide the page number, all right, at the end of that quote. So say I'm writing a rhetorical analysis essay, and I'm using Helen Keller's article, The Most Important Day. When I'm introducing the article, I might say, in Helen Keller's article, The Most Important Day, she states, and then I would put in that quote, since I mentioned her name earlier in that sentence, I don't have to repeat it in the citation at the end. So all I would put in there is the page number. And the reason why that is because you don't want the citations to be very repetitive for your reader, right? Like, because believe it or not, when we do read things, we are reading the citations too. So if we have the last name constantly happening, it might get a little bit problematic. Now, obviously, if you're talking about more than one source in the span of one paragraph, you probably still want to stick with the names and the page numbers being in the in-text citations, or else your reader is going to get your sources mixed up. All right, we don't want that to happen. So that's the first situation that I want you to consider when it comes to in-text citations. Next, if there is no author listed, then use a condensed version of the work's title. And usually, if you do that, let's pretend that Helen Keller's article, The Most Important Day, does not have an author. Like we don't even know that it's Helen Keller. In the in-text citation, what I would do is I would put the most important ... put that in quotes, and then I'd put the page number afterward, enclosed in parentheses. That's the condensed version of the work's title. That happens rarely. Most things have titles, although you may encounter that from time to time. And I'll show you what that would look like on a Word document here in just a moment. All right. If there is more than one author, then list the author's last names either in the sentence before, that way you don't have to have them in the citation, or in the citation. Okay. And here in just a moment, I'm going to show you 3 different ways to do that. If there are 4 or more authors listed, then you have the option to use only the first author's name followed by et al., which means and others. It's Latin for and others, which shows your reader that you have that you essentially are showing me that there are other people that wrote that article or book or whatever. Okay. I'm okay if you do that with 3 or more authors. 4 or more is kind of excessive in my opinion, so 3 or more is fine with me. And if you have authors with the same last names, use the first name initial in the citation. So let's pretend that I have 2 different articles that I'm citing in a paper. One's by Jane Doe and the other one is by Doris Doe or something like that. If I'm going to reference their sources, I'm going to want to have that J or that D for Jane or Doris in that citation. That way the reader will understand the difference between the two. Now, before I move on to works cited pages, I'm going to open up a Word document here and show you what you do during those different situations. And I hope you can see this okay. So first things first, I'm going to fix my formatting here because it's weird. All right, anyway. So let's pretend that in my essay, that I'm writing an essay, and the source that I am using, its title is Pets Are Awesome. Okay. And it is written by Doris Doe. Okay. So if I introduce her name early on in the sentence, then remember I don't have to use her name in the in-text citation. So I'm going to model a paragraph for you. So In Doris Doe's article titled Cats Are Awesome, she states, cats are known to be one of, let's see, one of the most understanding pets one could have. Yeah, right. We all know that cats are sassy. And for all of you dog people, I'm sorry. You know, I love dogs too. I just need to use cats as an example. All right. So notice here, I introduce her article title, and I also introduce her name earlier on in the sentence. So when I have create my in-text citation, instead of putting Doe in the page number, I'm just going to put the page number. We'll pretend that this came from page 43. All right. If this is a super duper long article that's like, 43 pages. All right. So that's what you would do in the situation if there is, if you state, I'm going to just list this for you so you can tell the difference between which example is which. Say the author's name earlier in the paper. Right. So now we're going to go down, and I'm going to tell you what you would do if in the situation if it's an article that's shorter and you're just referencing paragraph numbers. So I'm just going to copy and paste this and use the same example. Okay. So we're pretending this is a paragraph. That's why I'm indenting it. So if your source is just a few paragraphs long, if it's just a few paragraphs long, then you can't really cite page number, right? You're going to have to reference paragraph number. So all you really do, we'll pretend that's from paragraph 43, period 43. All right. Now, you will find that some teachers teach it differently. I was taught to put in para.43 because if you just put 43, your reader is going to be confused and not know if you're referring to a page number or a paragraph number, right? So if your source is just a few paragraphs and there aren't page numbers, use para, all right? That's going to make life a lot easier for you. Okay. Now, all right, so let's pretend, I'm going to go back here to see what my list is. If there is no author listed, then list a condensed version of the work's title, all right? So maybe instead of, we'll pretend that we don't know what the name of the author is. So in the article titled Cats Are Awesome, the author states, okay, so I'm going to put in the condensed version of the work's title. So I'm going to put in Cats 43. All right. So notice that I'm showing the reader that it's coming from a particular article. I've had experiences where teachers have taught to put double quotes or single quotes. I usually do single quotes. Whatever you choose to do, it's not going to bother me. This is what you would do if there is no author provided. I will make sure that I post this Word document on e-learning so you guys can see it too. All right. Hope this is making sense so far. All right, so the next example that I'm going to show you is if there is more than one author listed. All right, so let's pretend that Doris Doe, John Hutchinson, and Gladys, I don't have no idea how to spell Gladys. Gladys Adams wrote this article. So there's 3 authors, right? So normally, if you're doing an in-text citation, you can put all of their last names in the in-text citation, but the easiest way to do that would be to do the et al. Option. So you would put in your example again. So in we'll say that for us, we're going to use what's alphabetical. So we'll start with Gladys Adams. So we'll pretend that's Gladys Adams. Gladys Adams. Article titled Cats Are Awesome. She states, cats are known to be the most understanding pets one could have. So obviously, what I'm going to do, like we'll pretend that, well, actually, we're going to take that out. In the article titled Cats Are Awesome, she state the authors state Cats are known to be one of the most understanding pets one could have. All right. So obviously I don't have any author information stated, so I'm going to put Adams, since she occurs earliest in the alphabet, if you look at their last names, I'm going to put et al. When I put in et al, that's showing me, or showing the reader, that there's more than one author attached to this. All right. So notice, instead of putting all of their names in or listing all of the names in the in-text citation, that et al makes life 3 trillion times easier. All right. So again, this is the situation of if there is more than one author. All right. So that is a few examples of of a few different ways you can do in-text citations, and I think that's pretty much it. So, all right. So now we're going to move on to talking about the works cited page. So the works cited page is going to be a lot more difficult for you, because remember, that comes at the end of the essay. I already mentioned they're sometimes called bibliographies. I want you to avoid using sites like Noodle Tools, EasyBib, or any other annotation generator site, because they're not always accurate. They're not always up to date on MLA stuff. All right. So that, I mean, you don't want to be producing inaccurate information. And my philosophy is, if you know where to find the information and you can put that information together, you'll get more confident at putting together works cited pages. And believe it or not, you'll be able to whip together a works cited page in the matter of a few minutes. All right. So when you are putting together a works cited page, the first thing that you want to do is identify what type of source you're dealing with. All right. Is it a magazine? Is it a book? Is it a scholarly journal? All right. You need to figure out what the source is. And then you need to go to the Purdue Online Writing Lab and find the layout for that particular type of source. Each has a moderately different layout. And it says on here, reference the pages section on Canvas for MLA resources. That's supposed to be the content section on e-learning. I also use the same presentation for my SVSU students. So obviously the first step is figuring out what source you're working with. And then number 2, finding the layout on the Purdue Online Writing Lab. Then you begin putting together your citation for your works cited page. All right. So I'm going to just turn this back around really quick. Oh, you can see me. All right. So I hope in-text citations made sense. We're gonna talk about the works cited page because that's going to be a lot more difficult, and I'm going to model for you how to put together a works cited page. So you'll notice on e-learning there is a MLA documentation exercise. You're going to definitely want to use this example that I'm showing you in order to, as this model to help you put together that MLA documentation exercise. So I have a couple of different sources with me right now. We're pretending that I'm writing an essay using The Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorite books. If you've watched it, or if you've read it, like if you watched the movies or if you read it, you are now my favorite person. So I'm using this. We're pretending I'm writing an essay about this. And I have an article from the New York Times that I'm using. It's a completely random article. At least I think it's from the New York Times. It's either from that or Time Magazine. So I think the other one that I picked was connected to this. So I'm going to put together a works cited page for you so you can see what the process is like. So, all right. So I'm going to flip this around one more time. I hope you were not bored out of your mind listening to me yammer on forever and forever. Anyway, so I'm putting together a works cited page. So obviously the first thing that I want to do is make sure that it's formatted correctly. Now, if you're saving this for the end of your essay, you won't have to do this because you've already formatted your essay. But if you're doing your works cited page separately, you want to follow the same process that you did when you put together the format for your essay. So I'm going to click on no spacing first, because remember, the normal setting adds in a 0.5 space. So I'm going to click on no spacing, and then I'm going to double space it. Okay. I'm going to change it to Times New Roman 12-point font. And then I'm going to type in works cited as my title, and then center it. Notice my title is not obnoxious. It's Times New Roman 12-point font like the rest of the essay. It does not need to be bolded, underlined, or anything like that. All right. So I'm going to show you my two sources. I already showed you the Lord of the Rings book. Now I'm going to show you an article that I have from Time magazine. So this article is titled "Lord of the Rings actor had a major brush with danger during his iconic scene that people love." All right. So this is basically an article about Viggo Mortensen, who's an actor in Lord of the Rings, and how he was injured when he was doing a scene. All right. So we're pretending that I'm writing this paper about this story. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find how to cite not only a novel, but a Times Magazine article. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to e-learning under content, and I'm going to go over here to the left side, and voila, there's the Purdue Online Writing Lab. You click on that and click on this link, it'll take you right to the MLA area. So this is what the Purdue Online Writing Lab looks like. All right. So it explains to you what MLA is. It gives you a summary about what it does, its functions, so on and so forth. If you look over here on the left side, if you are, say, needing some citation info for another class, you can also see how to do like APA. There's also an area for Chicago style or AMA. A lot of really awesome information here. All right, but for the sake of this English class, it's going to be MLA. So your best friend is going to be this left area over here with all of the different criteria. All right. So I know where to find the information. I am on the Purdue Online Writing Lab, and I have my two sources ready to go. So when you're putting together a works cited page, the thing you want to think of first is the fact that it needs to be in alphabetical order. All right. So you always are going to probably start with the author's last name. So I need to look at the last name of both of my sources. So the last name of this writer is McCluskey, all right? And then, of course, the Lord of the Rings book I showed you, it's written by J.R.R. Tolkien. So Tolkien occurs later in the alphabet, so that means that's not going to be my first citation. This article in front of you is. So looking at this article, I have to determine what kind of article it is. All right, it's from Time magazine. That's pretty important. All right, that tells me that it's a magazine. It's on the internet, so it's a web-based magazine. I have my title here. That's important. I have the author's first and last name, and I have the date of publication. So it was literally published 2 days ago. All right. So I'm going to go to the Purdue Online Writing Lab and figure out how I am going to cite an article from a web magazine. So I'm going to go back to the Writing Lab. Now, looking through these different criteria, I'm going to click on electronic sources. If it's online, it's usually going to be under the electronic sources. Of course, this page gives you an overview of MLA, what it does, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of stuff. Then you'll start getting into areas where it shows you how to cite certain different things. So this is how you do a works cited entry for a website, all right? Or a page on a website. Since we're dealing with a web magazine, it's more than just a page on a website. So you can cite an image, a painting, sculpture, photograph. There's a lot of different things. And voila, look right here. Provide author name, all of this stuff. This is for an article in a web magazine. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. All right. So to make life a little bit easier, I'm going to minimize this. All right. And I'm going to condense this so I can see it. All right. So I'm going to start doing my in-text citation, or not my in-text citation, my works cited entry. So I'm going to look at the article really quick. Obviously, I start out with the last name and the first name of the author. So I start with McCluskey Megan. All right. Megan. McCluskey and then Megan. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do then afterward is look back at the Writing Lab. I'm going to put in then the article title, which is in quotation marks. So this is kind of a long article title. So I'm going to put in Lord of the Rings. Now the reason why Lord of the Rings is italicized is because this title is directly referencing the title of a movie, which those are always italicized. Okay? Lord of the Rings actor had a major brush with danger during this iconic scene people love. All right, now I need to go look and see what I do next. So after that, I put a period. All right, so a period goes after that title, and then I put a quotation mark. Looking back at this example, what I do next then is I put in the title of the source that's containing this article, or the bigger source. So that's Time Magazine. So I'm going to put in Time. I'm going to italicize it because it's supposed to be italicized. Time. I usually put in magazine. Okay. So after that, I'm going to put in a comma. Make sure that you unitalicize because the rest of your entry shouldn't be. And looking at this, I put in the date of publication. So it was published on October 17th, 2018. So looking at the example and how it's formatted, 17 Oct 2018. For months, if the month has more than one syllable, then it gets abbreviated. So if it's like June or March or May, those do not get abbreviated. You just put in the whole date. All right, the whole name of the month. I cannot articulate myself today. I apologize. So after that, I put in a comma. All right. And then look here, I put in the URL to the article. So I'm going to go back here. Okay, the URL is this. You don't need to have http:// none of that. So what I'm going to do, I just copied. I clicked Control-C to copy, and then I'm going to click Control-V to paste it in there. I'm going to take out the http:// I don't need that junk. I'm going to put a period at the end here. And then I'm going to put the access date. The access date is the day that you open the article. So accessed 19 Oct 2018. Since today is the 19th. So in a nutshell, that is how you do a works cited entry for a web-based magazine, or an article from a web-based magazine. Now, what makes works cited pages a little bit more complicating is that you have to do a hanging indent on subsequent lines after the first line. All right. Now, the reason why that is because it helps the reader read through those citations more easily. That way they can tell when one ends and when another begins. I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly here. So you're going to want to highlight the lines that you want to have a hanging indent for. You right-click on it. You click on Paragraph. Then right here, you'll see Indentation. All right. You're going to go under the Special category, click Hanging. And if you see, there's a little preview down here that shows you what it's going to look like. And that's exactly how it should look like. If it's off in the middle of the page like this, that means you have some numbers in these few little boxes here. All of these boxes should either read 0 or be blank, right? Hanging indents are 1/2 inch, which is the same amount of indent as a regular paragraph. So you click OK, and voila, I got a hanging indent. So the nice thing about this is once you do a hanging indent once on Microsoft Word, it automatically begins creating, it creates an automated hanging indent for the rest of your works cited entries. So now that I have my first citation done, I'm going to reference my second source, which is The Lord of the Rings, right? So to show you, I'm going to flip back here so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so hello again. So for The Lord of the Rings, since this is a book, I'm going to have to go onto the Purdue Online Writing Lab and see how to cite a book. Now, for books are really easy to cite because all you really need is the author, you need the title of the book, the publication company, and the publication date. All right, and obviously you find that by going to the publication page or the copyright page of the book. It's usually within the first few pages. All right. So on here, I have all of these different examples. This particular version of the book looks like it was published. Let's see. It should be in here. Why is it not in here? This was published around when this was published in 2002. All right, this version was published in 2002. The difficult thing about books like this is if there's a bunch of different versions, you'll see all of those publication dates on the copyright page. So when you're doing physical sources like this, the copyright page is your best friend. That is where you're going to find all of your information. All right, so now I'm going to show you again how to go back to the Purdue Online Writing Lab and search how I cite a book. All right. So I'm going to flip this back around really quick. All right. So going back to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, I'm going to go back up to my little area over here where it has the selections on the side. I'm going to obviously click on books, right? And of course, this will show you an example. A book with one author. Okay, so what you do, last name, first name of the author, that's kind of the same as you would like in that web magazine. You would put in the title of the book, the publication company, and then the year. Very, very easy, right? So let's do it on the Word document. So I'm going to put in Tolkien, last name of the author, J.R.R., first name of the author. Lord of the Rings. Obviously, I need to put in the whole title because there are 3 different Lord of the Rings books. All right. Now, sometimes you may need to go back and look at what punctuation you need. So after the title for this type of source, you just put in a period. And I'm going to put in the publication date, which was 2002. Oh, wait, no, I put in the publication company first. Sorry about that. See, sometimes even I forget. So this is from Houghton Mifflin Company. That is the publication company. I'm just going to put Houghton. You don't need to put the entire publication company because sometimes their names are really long. Comma, date of publication, period. I'm going to go back and make sure that's right. Yep, that's how it looks. All right, voila. I put together a works cited page. Okay. So notice that took me just a few minutes. Now, sometimes if you're writing an essay that has a lot of different sources, it might be a little bit more time consuming, but the point is you have time to do it. You have the information out there in the Purdue Online Writing Lab, so it shouldn't be that difficult once you practice it a little bit more. All right. So let me move this back so you can see my face. If it decides to open up, that'd be great. All right, there we go. I can see my face again. So if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I'm going to post these 2 Word documents that I just made. I'm going to post them on e-learning for you to look at. Now, if you guys find that works cited pages are causing some stress, please don't hesitate to email me. I'm here to help you. Or if you're on campus, feel free to visit me during my office hours. Those are listed on the syllabus. So I hope that presentation for MLA helped out a little bit, clarified things a smidgen. The only thing you just need to remember is that there are 2 different things you got to do when you're citing sources. You got to have in-text citations throughout the paper, and at the end of the paper, you got to have your works cited page. All right. Anyway, you guys have a good rest of your week. Have a good weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.